Herod made one mistake he could never repair. It wasn't a battle. It wasn't a betrayal. It was a ceremony. A 17-year-old put on a sacred garment. The crowd saw him. And something inside the palace changed forever. Aristobulus was Mariamne's brother. Young, too young, some would say. But Hasmonean on both lines, a direct descendant of the priest-kings who had restored the temple. Herod's position didn't depend only on his own decisions. It depended on the approval of the most powerful man in the Eastern Mediterranean. That man was Mark Antony. And Mark Antony had just been asked to intervene. Mariamne's mother, Alexandra, pressed for Aristobulus to be named high priest. She wrote to Mark Antony. She wrote to Cleopatra. She made it visible. She made it impossible to ignore. And Herod, who couldn't afford friction with the man holding his position in the East, yielded. Aristobulus was named high priest. What happened at the temple that day needs no exaggeration. When the young man appeared dressed in the robes of the office, something moved through the crowd with the spontaneity of what has been contained too long. The acclaim wasn't just religious enthusiasm. It was recognition. And that difference is precise and decisive. Enthusiasm dissolves with the ceremony. Recognition remains. Herod witnessed it. From the place where kings observe without being observed. And what he read that afternoon wasn't just popular enthusiasm for a young priest. It was the exact measure of everything he could not be. The specific distance visible, audible between ruling because the empire permits it and ruling because people remember that your family did it before. Aristobulus died months later. In Jericho, during a feast. In the pool of one of Herod's palaces. An accident, that's what was said. He was 18 years old. Herod mourned publicly. Ordered elaborate funeral honors. Mark Antony summoned him to explain the death. Herod went and returned with his position intact. But something had shifted in the palace. Something everyone felt and no one could name. Mariamne understood it with the precision of what needs no argument. The man publicly weeping for her brother was the same man who had ordered his death. And she had to keep living with that man, sharing his roof, his children, his history. She didn't collapse. She didn't flee. She didn't accuse. She did something harder than any of those. She stayed, composed, knowing exactly what she knew. That produces a kind of distance that has no formal name. Not hatred, not treason. Something colder and more permanent than either. She chose to stay. He chose something else entirely. What happens when the same person is both the one you love and the one you have to fear? That's where the next video begins.